Good day to our course advisor, Mr. Gerald Gulifardo, and to the audience. I am Glyza De Loreto, and together with my group mates, Ms. Joanne Maribagsik, Ms. Anne Lawrence Bala, Ms. Ivy Mascarina, and Ms. Angela Rojas, we would like to greet you a pleasant day. Today, we will be discussing our research entitled Fluctuation of Stock Market Prices Caused by Behavioral Buying Factors of Stockholders. The Chapter 1 introduction will be discussed by yours truly, Glyza De Loreto. Chapter 1 Introduction. For the background of the study, we will be talking about the stock market, rise in share price, and behavioral finance in stock market in the world and in Asia. Stock market is a market where stocks are bought and sold. In an economy, beside playing the role of source of financing investment, stock market also performs a function as a signaling mechanisms to manager regarding investment decisions and as a catalyst for corporate governance. However, stock market is best known for being the most effective channel for companies raise capital. People are interested in stock because of long-term growth of capital, dividends, and a hedge against inflationary erosion of purchasing power. The other feature that makes the stock market more attractive than other types of investment is its liquidity. Most people invest in stocks because they want to be owners of the firm, from which they benefit when the company pays dividends or when stock price increases. However, many people buy stocks for the purpose of control over firms. Regularly, shareholders need to own specific numbers of shares to be in the board of directors, who can make strategic decisions and set directions for the firm. It is possible to consider stock market as a yardstick for the economic strength and development. Thus, the movement of stock market trend represents the economic health of the economy. The rise in share price tends to be associated with the increase in investment, which leads to the higher growth rate of a company to a specific and an economy in general. Stock market affects economy through its liquidity. It is believed that firms may require long-term capital while investors do not intend to lose relinquish control over their savings for such a long time. Liquidity allows investors to trade stock easily and quickly while the firms still have permanent use of capital for stable development. Furthermore, through risk diversification, stock market may influence economic growth by shifting investment into higher return projects. Besides, stock market promotes the acquisition of firms' information from which investors may benefit before the information is spread widely and prices change. Many researchers consider behavioral finance as a good theory to understand and explain feelings and cognitive errors affecting investment decision making. Supporters of behavioral finance believe that the study of social sciences such as psychology can help to reveal the behaviors of stock market, market bubbles, and crashes. There are two reasons why behavioral finance is important and interesting to be applied for countries like Philippine stock market. Firstly, behavioral finance is a still new topic for study. Until recently, it is accepted as a feasible study to explain how investors of financial markets make decisions and then this decision influence the financial market. Secondly, due to some evidence subjected, academic, and experimental, it is concluded that Asian investors, including Filipino investors residing in Quezon Province, usually suffer from cognitive biases more than people from other cultures. Therefore, the consideration of the factors influencing Filipino investors' decision-making process cannot ignore the behavioral elements. Behavioral finance studies have been carried out popularly in developed markets of Europe and the USA as well as the emerging and frontier markets, for example, Malaysia and Kenya. However, the number of studies using the behavioral finance for frontier and emerging markets is much fewer than developed markets. In this study, behavioral finance is used for Philippine security markets, a pre-emergent stock market of South Asia, to recognize the driven factors of individual investors' behavior and its effect to the fluctuation of Philippine stocks. The researchers hope that this study will enrich the number of studies using behavioral finance for less developed security markets such as the Philippines, especially the locale of Quezon Province. Research objectives. The general objective of this research is to find the effects of investors' behavior on the fluctuations of stock market prices in the Quezon, Philippines. Specific objectives includes first, applying the behavioral finance to identify the possible behavioral factors influencing the investment decision of individual investors in Quezon Province, Philippines. Second, identifying the impact levels of behavioral factors on the investment decision and performance of individual investors in designated locale of Quezon Province. Third, giving some recommendations for individual investors to adjust their behaviors to achieve good investment results. And lastly, setting the backgrounds for further research in behavioral finance in Quezon Province, Philippines. Significance of the study. The result of the study let others know the most effects of investor behavior in the fluctuation of stock market that will help to identify the factors connected to it. This benefits particularly the following. First, the individual investors. The research is a good reference of stock investment behavior for individual investors to consider and analyze the stock market trend before making suitable decisions of investment. Second, to the security organization. The research provides them with a good background for their prediction of future stock market trend and giving more reliable consultant information to the investors. Third, to the field of behavioral finance. The concepts of behavioral finance are relatively new in comparison to other financial theories. In developed security markets, behavioral finance is applied widely to explore the behaviors and impact of investments decision. However, as mentioned above, behavioral finance has a limited number of application for less developed security markets. This study is done with hope to confirm the suitability of using behavioral finance for all kinds of stock market. To the future researchers, this research will provide additional data for future researchers for future studies that relate to the topic of this research. The theories stated this research will be great to help to the future researchers. And lastly, to the current researchers, the research will provide a good chance for researchers to understand more theoretically and practically about the stock markets as well as the theories of behavioral finance. Scope and limitation. This study is primarily focused on influence of investors' behavior on the fluctuation of the stock prices in the locale of Quezon Province. The scope will be the investor's psychological behavior in investors, thinking, decision, and its effects and impact on the stock market, particularly on stock prices. Due to the time constraint, the research focuses on the behaviors of individual investors at the locale of Quezon Province. It is necessary to have further research for the whole Philippines to have a total picture of the Philippine stock market. Besides, the behaviors of institutional investors such as banks, security companies, and so on should also be explored to have more reliable information about the impact of behavioral finance on the Philippine security market.
Today, I will be discussing the Chapter 2 related literature of our research that we did in regards to the fluctuations of stock prices influence of investors' behavior. To express our views in clearer manner, I created this visual representation that will help you to understand what our study is all about. This chapter aims at reviewing the related literatures of behavioral factors that might affect the investment decision of investors. To make it short, I only choose 3 related literature out of our 10 articles that are directly related to our study. First topic is about the economic factors and investors' behavior, the case of the Greek stock exchange. Second is the economic implications of extraordinarily movements in stock prices, and as well as the behavioral finance in Asia. are presented, such as comparison of between traditional finance and behavioral finance. And finally, the results will be compared and differences of each article will also be presented. As we can see in this table, like the study of Anna, Andreas, George, and Deb entitled Economic Factors and Investors' Behavior, the case of the Greek Stock Exchange. According to them, they confirm that there seems to be a certain degree of correlation between the factors that behavioral finance theory and previous empirical evidence identify as the influencing factors for the average equity investors. Next article that we have here is entitled Economic Implications of Extraordinary Movements in Stock Prices. The author of this article are Benjamin and David Liveson. According to them, the basic rationale for an economist allocating capital in this way is the presumption that both in the aggregate and at an individual firm level, the prices set in the stock market are efficient, in the sense that they embody all available relevant information, or at least more such information than any alternative capital allocation. Finally, the article about behavioral finance in Asia. According to the author, Kim and Nafsinger, Asia is an interesting place for studying behavioral finance because it is known for its variety of capitalism level and participants' financial experience. They also said that the different level of knowledge and experience leads to the difference in decision making. Thus, Asia is a perfect platform for studying behavioral finance. This table shows the comparison of the three given articles that is related to our study. However, there is a gap between these related articles. The articles that is being presented is only focusing on the investor's behavior of foreign stock exchange, which is different to our study. Taking into this account, our research is primarily focusing only on the influence of local investors' behavior on the fluctuations of the stock prices in the locale of the Quezon province. Now, we are moving on to the chapter 3 of our research, the theoretical framework. This chapter illustrates what you expect to find through our research, which defines the relevant variables for our study and how these variables are being related to each other. As mentioned in the literature review in the previous chapter, it is definitely a behavioral factors impact the investment decisions of investors in the financial markets, especially in the stock markets. This chapter aims to explore the influence levels of the behavioral variables on the individual investors' decisions and their investment performance. Behavioral finance is based on a psychology which suggests that human decisions processes are subject to several cognitive illusions. These illusions are divided into two groups: illusions caused by heuristic decision process and illusion rooted from the adoption of mental frames grouped in the prospect theory. These two categories, as well as the herding and market factors, are also presented in this chapter. The first behavioral factor is the herding effect. Herding effect in financial market is identified as tendency of investors' behavior to follow the other's action. Practitioners usually consider carefully the existence of herding due to the fact that investors rely on the collective information more than the private information can result the price deviation of the securities from the fundamental value. Therefore, many good chances for investment at the present can be impacted. Another is the market factor. The financial markets can be affected by investors' behavior in the way of behavioral finance. These market factors influence the decision-making of investors in the stock market. Some study identifies the factors of market that have an impact of investors' decision-making, such as price changes, market information, fast trends of stocks, customer preferences, overreaction to price changes, and fundamentals of underlying stocks. The third one is the prospect theory. Prospect theory are considered as two approaches to decision making from different perspectives. Prospect theory focuses on the subjective decision making influenced by investors' value system. This theory is criticized for failing to explain why people are attracted to both insurance and gambling. Prospect theory describes some states of mind affecting an individual's decision-making processes, including regret aversion, loss aversion, and mental accounting. Another behavioral factor is the heuristic theory. Heuristics are defined as the rules of thumb, which makes decision-making easier, especially in a complex and uncertain environments, by reducing the complexity of assessing probabilities and predicting values to simpler judgment. In general, these heuristics are quite useful, particularly when time is limited, but sometimes they lead to biases. And lastly, the stock investment performance. These behavioral factors affecting the investor's performance and decisions. There are several investment decisions related to stock trading, such as buying, selling, choice of stock, length of time to hold stock, and volume stock to trade. However, in this part, two important stock trading decisions, selling and buying, are focused because they have connection to other decisions and highly impact on the investment performance. For the most part, behavioral factors influencing the investor's decision-making are divided into four groups: heuristic, prospect, market, and herding effect. This framework reflects a total picture of almost behavioral factors that can impact the investor's decision at the stock exchanges. Therefore, they can be used in order to recognize the behavior of individual or even institutional investors in security trading, regardless of the stock market types, frontier, emerging, or developed.
Good day. I am Joanne Marie and I am going to discuss the Chapter 4 Research Design. Research Design. The method used in this particular investigation was descriptive survey research because it concerned the current practices, present situations, and prevailing conditions. The analysis of the prevailing conditions leads the writer the identification of the solution required of the study. Research design provides the framework for data collection and analysis. In order to understand the common behaviors of individual investors, case study or experimental or longitudinal design are not suitable but cross-sectional design. When a cross-sectional design is employed, data from more than one case at one single time is collected and analyzed. The patent of association is then examined by using the collected quantitative or quantifiable data. This feature is relevant to this study. The first, because it fits the nature of this study to describe a common trend of investors' behaviors rather than one specific case, and the second, because data in this study has not been collected in stages but carried out in a single time period. The cross-sectional design involves using different research strategies and is beneficial for this study because it allows collecting both quantitative and qualitative data, which is suitable for the chosen mixed methods as described in the previous sections. The typical forms to collect quantitative data in this type approach are the social survey research and structured observation on a sample at a single time, while the typical forms to collect qualitative data are qualitative interviews or focus groups at a single point in time. Population selection. The researchers will use purposive sampling, also known as selective or subjective sampling. This sampling method is a sampling technique that qualitative researchers use to recruit participants who can provide in-depth and detailed information about the phenomenon under investigation. Since the researchers are aiming for respondents that are knowledgeable to the subject, this is the suitable research sampling method. The targeted respondent population are just those businesses in the locale are heavily affected by the fluctuation in the stock market. The respondents are chosen selectively to answer the survey questionnaire. They will be composed of the big stockholders in different locale. Data collection. The method that the researchers use is the survey data collection, which is through online, which is the most popular data collection sources, where a set of survey questions is sent out to target surveys which are the stockholders with approximate goal of 100 persons. The survey questionnaire contained various sections wherein it is all about the choices of every respondent whether the buying behavior of each trader is affecting the fluctuations of market. This method is chosen for some reasons. The first reason is that, as the research questions are defined clearly, questionnaire is the best choice to have standardized data, which is easily to process and analyze. Especially as no interviewers present when the questionnaires are completing, the results may not be affected by the interviewers. Moreover, it is cheaper than other methods. Research instrument. To gather the data needed, the researcher used a survey-type questionnaire as an instrument. Data collection consists of surveys and observation, initially a survey instrument to measure the stockholders' answer regarding to the qualified opinion of stockholders regarding the factors affecting the stock prices that are being influenced by the investor's behavior. Subsequently, observation will be done to help to form a positive conclusion. The goal is to survey approximately 100 stockholders, but as for the current situations, the readily available stockholders are being conducted. Upon collecting the qualitative data derived from the survey, an accurate analysis must be done to prepare a justifiable and validated data. Personal information classifying gender, marital status, and security company. Questions 1, 3, and 10. Type of measurement, nominal scale. Classifying and ranking order of age, educational level, years of trading, income, attendance time of stock market, and amount of investment. Questions 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Type of measurement, ordinal scale. Statistical treatment. The fluctuations of stock prices that are being influenced by stockholders' behavior was treated with the use of Special Package for Social Sciences, or SPSS, in order to determine if there is a significant effect of fluctuations of stock prices and behavior of stockholders. ANOVA was used.
Good morning, everyone. I am Angelo S. Rojas, and I will be presenting Chapter 5, Data Findings of the Research Study that we have done. In analyzing the data, we use two statistical methods. The first one is the descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So let's have first the descriptive statistics. In here, we can see the first graph that shows the gender of the respondents. Out of 30 responses, we've got 18 from male and 12 from female. On the next graph, we have the age, which has 36 to 45 years of age as the highest number of votes. Alongside it is a frequency distribution table. On the next graph, we have the marital status of the respondents. So as we can see in here, most of them are single. It actually accumulates 50% of the total number. On the fourth graph, we have the education level of the respondents. Most of them graduated from the bachelor's degree, which accumulates 60% of the total number of respondents. On the fifth graph, we can see here the years of trading of the respondents. So we have a tie in here. Under 3 years and 3 to under 6 years are the years that has been traded by the respondents. Alongside this is the frequency distribution table as well. On the sixth graph, we have the estimation of average monthly income. So most of the respondents, which is actually 50% of them, voted 20,000 to under 100,000 pesos as their monthly income. On the number 7th graph, we have the question, how long have they been attending the stock market? So most of them answered 1 to under 3 years and 3 to under 5 years. Both of them accumulate 30%. In summation, we can say that 60% voted 1 to under 5 years. On the 8th graph, we have the total amount of money that has been invested at the PSE market for last year. In here, we can see that 50,000 to under 150,000 pesos have been the highest number of votes. Alongside it is the frequency distribution table as well. And on the last graph that we have in here is about the total money that has been invested at Philippine Stock Exchange market without time limit. So 12 out of 30 answered under 200,000 pesos, which is the 40% of the total number of the respondents. Alongside this is a frequency distribution as well, which shows the mid-value, the cumulative frequency of the data gathered. So the table shows a descriptive statistic between the relationship of the years of trading, which is the independent variable, and the questionnaire we have asked the respondent, which is also known as the dependent variable. So below we can see a chart of one-way statistic. It is actually a descriptive statistic which show mean, standard deviation, standard error, lower bound, upper bound, minimum, maximum, and between component variance. So as we can see in here on the A part, we have the years of trading as the independent variable. So now let's move on to the second method of statistics that we have used. It is the inferential statistics. As we can see in here, we have used 3 data to show how it is done. The first one is a test of homogeneity of variances. The second one is the ANOVA, and of course the post-HOC test, which underneath it is a multiple comparison test. Now as we can see in here, these are the data that has been gathered through the survey that we have made. So let's move on now to the data interpretation. The first one is the impact of heuristic variables on the investment decision making. As mentioned above, the heuristic variables are grouped into 2 factors: overconfidence, gambler's fallacy, and anchoring ability bias. The impacts of these factors are shown in the following table. So as we can see on the overconfidence, we have question 3 and question 6. And in anchoring and availability bias, we have question 5 and question 7 to signify the mean and standard deviation of those questions. The next interpretation is the impact of prospect variables on the investment decision making. In the dimension of prospect, all its 3 kinds of behaviors, loss aversion, regret aversion, and metal according, have the representative variables influencing the decision making of investors' stock investment. Now as we can see in here, under the prospect factor are the question 10, 11, 13, and 14, and it also have the mean and standard deviation of this data. On the third one, we have the impacts of market variables on the investment decision making. Changes of stock prices, market information, and past trends of stocks are the variables of market that influence the individual's investment decisions at the HOSE. The results are shown in the table below. So as we can see, it is the market factor. We have the question 15, 17, and 18. On the fourth one, it is the impacts of herding variables on the investment decision making. So when we say herding, it has the questions number 21, 22, 23, and 24. So as we can see, it has also the mean and standard deviation of the answers from the survey that we have made. So lastly, we can also interpret the investment performance. In here, we have 3 questions that has been asked. It is about the return rate of your recent stock, the return rate that is recently equal to or higher than the average return rate, and the satisfaction for the investment that has been made within last year. So as you can see in here, the mean standard deviation that has been given in here are the actual answers from the respondent. So to summarize the findings of our study, we can suggest that the investment performance can improve by improving the heuristic and herding behaviors at the same time, with considering carefully the negative impacts of prospect behaviors. Besides, one surprising finding of the research is that the market variables are reported to have high impacts on the investment decision making. However, they do not significantly impact the performance of investors. So that would be the end of the Chapter 5 data findings. Thank you so much.
Good day, everyone. This is Anne Lawrence Bala, and I'm going to discuss the last chapter of this research, which is the conclusions and recommendations. The conclusions includes the market factors that consist of 3 variables: the price changes, market information, and past trends of stocks. The prospect factor possesses 4 variables that have significant impact on the investment decision making: loss aversion, regret aversion, and mental accounting, whereas the heuristic variables are grouped into 2 factors: the overconfidence Gumbel's fallacy and uncarrying ability bias as mentioned above. The factor of overconfidence Gumbel's fallacy consists of 2 variables: the overconfidence and Gumbel's fallacy, while 2 variables anchoring and ability bias belong to the factor of anchoring ability bias. There are few items having low impact on investors' decisions: the gambler's fallacy and speed of herding. 3 variables of market, which are price changes, market information, and past trends of stocks, and 1 variable of prospect, which is mental accounting, are several ones reported to have high influences on the investment decision making. Only 3 factors are found to influence the investment performance. First is the herding, which includes buying and selling, choice of trading stocks, volume of trading stocks, and speed of herding. Next is the prospect, including loss aversion, regret aversion, and mental accounting, and heuristic, which includes overconfidence and Gumbel's fallacy. The heuristic behaviors are found to have the highest positive impact on the investment performance, while the herding behaviors are reported to influence positively the investment performance at the lower level. In contrast, the prospect behaviors give the negative impact on the investment performance. The researchers also provide recommendations for the future researchers. As we conduct this research, it shows that overconfidence has positive impact on the investment performance. In the uncertainty, the overconfidence can be useful for the investors to do difficult tasks and help them to forecast the future trends. However, overconfident traders tend to underestimate the associated risks of active stock investment, which can affect badly to their investment result. Therefore, an acceptable advice for the investors is that overconfidence is great for their investment if they can use it in the clever and suitable ways. Besides, overconfidence herding also has positive impact on investment performance. The cooperation of a crowd of investors can help them limit the risk and increase the chances to have good investment results. In contrast to overconfidence and herding, the findings suggest that prospect factors, which are loss aversion, regret aversion, and mental accounting, impact negatively to investment performance. Recommendations given to investors are that they should consider carefully before making investment decision, but should not care too much about the prior loss of their later investment decision. This can limit the good chances of investment and impact badly the psychology of the investors and lead to bad investment performance. Besides, the investor should not reduce their regret in investment by avoiding selling decreasing stocks and selling increasing ones. As discussed above, this can lead to the fact that the investors can keep all losing stocks, and this impact negatively on investment performance. Finally, the investor should not divide their investment portfolio into separate accounts because each element of the portfolio may have a strict relation to the others, and treating each element as an independence can be result a bad investment performance. And that is all for our research presentation. Thank you.